Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today thank you very much, devotees, for joining us. I'd like to seek your good wishes, your blessings, so that we can continue with Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to look at chapter 31 again, verse by verse. So we'll do the Sanskrit and read the English translation of each verse. And then we'll hopefully get to the overview of chapter 32 as well. Okay.
Shall I start?
Actually, Karuna will do the Sanskrit and you can do the English.
Okay.
Shri Gopya Uchu Jayati Tedikam Janmana Vraja Shrayata Indira Shashwadatrahi Dayatya Drishyata Dikshutavaka Tvaidrita Savas Tvam Vichimpate.
The translation. The Gopis said, "O beloved, your birth in the land of Braj has made it exceedingly glorious. And thus Indra, the goddess of fortune, always resides here. It is only for your sake that we, your devoted servants, maintain our lives. We have been searching everywhere for you, so please show yourself to us."
Sharadudashaye Sadhu Jataka Tarasi Jodara Shri Mushadrisha Suratanatite Shulkadasika Varadanignato Neha Kimbala.
O Lord of love, in beauty, your glance excels the world of the finest, most perfectly formed lotus within the autumn pond. O bestower of benedictions, you are killing the maidservants who have given themselves to you freely, without any price. Isn't this murder?
Vishajalapyaya Vyalarachasa Varashamaruta Vaidyutanala Vrishamayatmaja Vishwato Bhaya Rishabhate Vayam Rakshitamuhu.
O greatest of personalities, you have repeatedly saved us from all kinds of danger, from poisoned water, from the terrible man-eater Aga, from the great rains, from the wind demon, from the fiery thunderbolt of Indra, from the bull demon, and from the son of Maya, Danav.
Na khalu gopika nandano bhavan akhila devna antaratmadri vikhana sathika vishwaguptaye Sakhauriva Satvatam Kule.
You are not actually the son of Gopi Yashoda, O friend, but rather the indwelling witness in the hearts of all embodied souls. because Lord Brahma prayed for you to come and protect the universe, you have now appeared in the Sattva dynasty.
विरचिता भयं वृष्णिधूर्यते चरणमीयुषा संसृतेर्भया करसरोरुहं कान्तकामदम् शिरसि देहिना श्रीकरग्रहम्.
O best of the Varnas, your lotus-like hand, which holds the hand of the goddess of fortune, grants fearlessness to those who approach your feet out of fear of material existence. O lover, please place that wish-fulfilling lotus hands on our heads.
व्रज जनार्तिहन् वीरयोषिता निज जन स्मया ध्वंसनस्मिता भज सखे भवान् किङ्करी स्मनो जलरुहाननं चारुदर्शय.
O you who destroy the suffering of Raja's people, O hero of all women, your smile shatters the false pride of your devotees. Please, dear friend, accept us as your maidservants and show us your beautiful lotus face.
प्रणतदेहिना पापकर्षणं त्रिनचरानुगं श्रीनिकेतनं फनिफनार्पितं ते पदाम्बुजं कृणुकुचेषुना कृन्धिरीक्षयम्.
Your lotus feet destroy the past sins of all embodied souls who surrender to them. Those feet follow after the cows in the pastures and are the eternal abode of the goddess of fortune. Since you once put those feet on the hooves of the great serpent Kalia, please place them upon our breasts and tear away the lust in our hearts.
मधुरया गिरा वर्गुवाक्यया बुधमनोव्यया पुष्करे क्षणा विधिकरीरिमा वीरमूयति अधरसिधुना याययस्वना.
O lotus-eyed one, your sweet voice and charming words, which attract the minds of the intelligent, are bewildering us more and more. Our dear hero, please revive your maidservants with the nectar of your lips.
तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना.
The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and the soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly, those who spread the message of Godhead are the most magnificent.
Rahasitam priya prema vikshanam viharanam chate dhyanamanggalam rahasi samvino yaridi sprisha kuhakano mana shobhayanti.
Your smiles, your sweet loving glances, the intimate pastimes and the confidential talks we enjoyed with you. All these are auspicious to meditate upon, and they touch our hearts. But at the same time, O deceiver, they very much agitate our minds.
Chalasi yad vrajat charayan pashun nalina sundaram nathate padam Shilatrinan kure sidati tina kalilatamana kanta gachati.
Dear master, dear lover, when you leave the cowherd village to herd the cows, our minds are disturbed with the thought that your feet, more beautiful than a lotus, will be pricked by the spiked husks of grain and the rough grass and the plants.
Dina parikshaye nila kuntale vanaruhananam bigradaritam ghanarajaswalam darshayan muhur manasina smaram virayachasi.
At the end of the day, you repeatedly show us your lotus face, covered with the dark blue locks of hair and thickly powdered with the dust. Thus, O hero, you aroused lusty desires in our minds.
Pranata kamadam padmajarchitam dharani mandanam dheyamapadi charana pankajam shantanam chate ramananastane shwarpayadhihan.
Your lotus feet, which are worshipped by Lord Brahma, fulfill the desires of all who bow down to them. They are the ornament of the earth. They give the highest satisfaction. And in these times of danger, they are the appropriate object of meditation. O lover, O destroyer of anxiety, please put those lotus feet upon our breasts.
Suratavardhanam shokanashanam swaritavenuna shushtuchumbitam itararagvishma raramrina vitaravirana hedharamritam.
O hero, kindly distribute to us the nectar of your lips, which enhances conjugal pleasure and vanquishes grief. The nectar is thoroughly relished by your vibrating flute and makes people forget any other attachment.
अतति यद्भवा पानिकाननं श्रुतियुगायते त्वामपश्यताम् कुटिलकुन्तलं श्रीमुखं च ते जरौ दीक्षता पक्ष्मक्रीदृशा.
When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which are fashioned by the foolish creator.
पतिसुतान्वया भ्रातृबान्धवा अतिविलम्यते अन्त्यच्युतगर्ता गतिविदस्तवो गीतमोदिता गीतवयोषिता कस्य जेनिषि.
Dear Achyuta, you know very well why we have come here. Who but a cheater like you would abandon young women who come to see him in the middle of the night and enchanted by this loud song of his flute? Just to see you, we have completely rejected our husbands, children, and sisters, brothers, and other relatives.
रहसि संविदं ऋचयोदयं प्रहसिताननं प्रेमवीक्षणम् बृहदुरश्रियो वीक्ष्य धामते मुहुरति स्पृहा मूयते मनः.
Our minds are repeatedly bewildered as we think of the intimate conversations we had with you in secret. Feel the rise of lust in our hearts and remember your smiling face, your loving glances, and your broad chest, the resting place of the goddess of fortune. Thus, we experience the most severe hankering for you.
व्रजवनौकशा व्यक्तिरङ्गते वृजिनहन्त्र्यलम् विश्वमङ्गलम् त्वजमनक्षण त्वत्स्पृहात्मनम् स्वजनरीदुर्जां यन्निषूदनम्.
O beloved, your all auspicious appearance vanquishes the distress of those living in Vraj forests. Our minds long for your association. Please give us just a bit of that medicine, which counteracts the disease in your devotees' hearts.
यत् ते सुजाता चरणाम्बुरुहं स्तनेषु भीताशने प्रिया दधीमहि कर्कशेषु तेनातभीमकसि तद्यथतेन किंसि कुर्पादिभिर्भ्रमतीति भावदायुषाम्.
O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about the forest of path. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Gopi-Gita ki jai. Thank you very
Jai.
much. Thank you, Karuna. Very good. No. So let's see if it is so nice to hear the Sanskrit again. Thank you very much. So let's go to chapter 32. And that is where the reunion takes place. So this is the verse.
I try your tune, Karuna.
Yeah.
Na parayeham niravadya samyujam swasadu kritam vibudashapiva yamabhajandujana kiha shinkala Samricha tadva kratiyatu sadhuna. I'm not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation.
Okay. So chapter 32 is how it describes how Krishna manifests himself in the midst of the gopis who had become extremely disturbed by their separation from him. After he consoled them, they expressed to him their deep feelings of ecstasy. So gopis, having shown in various ways their great eagerness to see Krishna, the attractor of Cupid, he appeared before them wearing silken yellow garments and a beautiful flower garland. Lord Krishna finally reappeared amongst the assembled gopis. He looked very beautiful, just befitting a person with all kinds of opulences. He showed special favor to the gopis, who were the selected beauties of all creation. It's impossible to repay you or show you enough gratitude for your love, he said. Therefore, please be satisfied with by your own pious activities. So what were the gopis were doing? When the gopis saw that their dearmost Krishna had returned to them, they all stood up at once. It was as if the air of life had re-entered their bodies. Some of the gopis, overwhelmed with ecstasy of seeing him, served him in various ways. So one gopi joyfully took Krishna's arms, anointed with sandalwood paste on her shoulder. Another gopi, slender one, respectfully took in her joined hands the betel nut he had chewed. Another gopi, burning with desire, put his lotus feet on her breasts. One gopi, besides herself with loving anger, bit her lips and stared at him with a frown. Another gopi looked with unblinking eyes upon his lotus face. One gopi took him through her eyes into her and placed him within her heart and embraced him there. All the gopis enjoyed the greatest festivity when they saw their beloved Keshav again. They gave up their distress of separation. Then Lord Krishna went to the banks of the Yamuna, which was full of soft sands, in the company of the gopis, his internal potencies. The moonlight dispelled the darkness of night. The gopis then made a seat for Krishna out of their shawls. And after he had sat down, they enjoyed with him by gesturing amorously, massaging his hands, feet, as they held them in their laps, as he held them in their laps. The gopis still felt hurt that Krishna had disappeared, and thus they addressed him as follows. Some people, yes, so this is their question to Krishna. Some people reciprocate the affection only of those who are affectionate towards them, while others show affection even to those who are indifferent or inimical. And yet others will show affection towards anyone. Dear Krishna, please properly explain this matter to us. I can't understand how you're treating us, Krishna is saying, gopis are saying. And they're questioning Krishna's behavior. So Krishna explains really nicely and analyzes friendship. So-called friends who show affection for each other only to benefit themselves are actually selfish. And we've seen this, right? We see this all the time in our own lives. They have no true friendships. They just use people. Indeed, if they did not expect benefit for themselves, they would not reciprocate. Some people are genuinely merciful like parents, naturally affectionate. Such persons who devotedly serve even those who fail to reciprocate with them are following the true faultless path of religion, and they are the true well-wishers. So Krishna explains these are for example, the parents who, even the children will treat them horribly, but the parents will still reciprocate with the children. Then there are those individuals who are spiritually self-satisfied, materially fulfilled, or by nature ungrateful, or simply envious of superiors. So he categorizes all of these under one. Such persons will not love even those who love them, what to speak of those who are inimical. So how does that work? Spiritually self-satisfied. Why won't they love even those who love him? Because they understand that this material body is temporary, and therefore they don't become close to anybody, even though outwardly they may seem close. Materially fulfilled, those who are materially fulfilled, they don't need anybody else. So they don't necessarily love anybody at all. By those who are by nature ungrateful, well, we know they won't care for anybody else. And those who are simply envious of superiors, again, they won't care for anybody else. Now, one thing our Guru Maharaj used to say, if you want to live peacefully, two things you have to do. One is, if you've done anything good for anybody in the past, forget that. And if anybody's done any bad to you, you forget that. Otherwise, we are constantly engaged in thinking negatively about another person, and we won't progress ourselves in spirituality because we will be consumed by some type of anger or envy. So it's very dangerous. So it's not easy to do. If we've done some good to others, we have some expectation of reciprocation. And that's where that expectation is a problem, because we cannot control how somebody else behaves. So if we just forget it, that, okay, you know what, I'm going to move on, then we'll live peacefully. It won't be consumed by anger or envy. And similarly, if somebody's done bad to us in the past, forget it. It was our karma. Krishna sanctioned it as well. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. And if Krishna sanctioned it, it must be good for me, because he won't do anything that is not good for me. So in that way, one can cross over this feeling angry towards others. Anyway, but the reason, now Krishna is explaining, I do not immediately reciprocate the affection of living beings, even when they worship me, O gopis, is that I want to intensify their loving devotion. So Krishna's motive is different. He may not reciprocate, but his reasoning is different. They then become like a poor man who has gained some wealth and then lost it, and who thus becomes so anxious about it that he can think of nothing else. Even when I remove myself from your sight, oh dear gopis, I never stop loving you. Therefore, my beloved gopis, please do not harbor any bad feelings towards me, your beloved. This is very, very powerful comment. Does that, so Sunil, does that mean do not take as granted? We can talk exactly what you mean in a minute. And then Krishna explains further, and this is the bit that really is mind-blowing. I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. This is the bit that the gopis defeat Krishna. The devotees defeat Krishna because he cannot repay them. Because the gopis will say to Krishna, we don't want anything but your own pleasure. We don't want anything for ourselves. Krishna will say, yes, I want to give you something. No, I don't want anything. I just want to serve you. I want to make you happy. And this is where the Lord becomes defeated. He comes under the control of his devotees. And it's explained to be one of the reasons why Krishna left Vrindavan externally, because there was no way he could repay this debt and it was tearing him apart. So, very interesting chapter, very interesting 2 chapters. And really the central hub of the Bhagavatam are in these chapters, showing the mood of Krishna with his really intimate devotees. So Sunil, what was your question?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Um, sorry, my voice is a bit.
That's okay.
Anyway, you mentioned in just a few chapters before. If you have done anything good, forget that. If anything bad happens, please forget that. So there are some situations that, especially those who are a bit rich, father is rich, mother is rich, the children take sometimes things as granted. For this belongs to my
Right.
father, so I can do whatever I.
Mm.
Yes, that's actually what I mean.
Mm. Yeah. And actually, this is the fault of the parents, because they give so much to their children without realizing the consequences of that giving. There's a Prabhupada talks about one story of a man who ended up in jail, and his auntie came to see him, and he had to go at her auntie. It's your fault that I'm here because you treated me, you gave me everything I wanted, and you should have not done that. So the thing is, parents, we tend to smother our children, you know. Oh, it's okay, let him do this, let him or let her do this. Not really realizing the consequences of us smothering them are making them spoiled. You see some of these rich people, like who is it? Maybe Bill Gates or someone like that. Said, I will only give a little bit of wealth to my children. I've got billions, but I'm going to give nothing to them in terms of his own wealth. He's just going to give it as donation or do some philanthropic work with it. Why? Because they know that if they give too much to their children, then what will their children do? They'll just fall into bad habits and not do any, not actually gain any experience in this world, you know. So that sort of makes a lot of sense. So this is the problem with wealth. I was reading today that one woman won the lottery, and she was saying that's the worst thing that ever happened to me. She won millions, and she ended up in a mental institution. So this is the problem with wealth. It can really corrupt, it can really divert us from being human beings, you know, and especially children of wealthy people. Generally, you tend to find them to be very irresponsible because his parents have not really trained them properly. Happens even to parents of poor parents of children as well. So because this is the material world, what do you expect? But generally, definitely, with rich parents, the children can be very spoiled. Is that okay, Sunil?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for the clarification.
Yeah, no, thank you for listening and understanding what we was trying to say. Thank you so much. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Otherwise, we can go to the instructions. Madhusudan Prabhu.
Jai Jai Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Wonderful session today with Karuna Manda singing Gopi-Gita, one of my favorite part of the Bhagavatam. And amazingly, you know, how Krishna also answers here. Actually, I was just reflecting on that bit where Krishna is saying the three types of people who are how they reciprocate. Some are selfish and some are indifferent and some are very merciful. And in that connection, I was just thinking about what we just read earlier on about the swan-like Vaishnavas that were described in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, where there are three types of Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttamadhikaris, but still beyond that, there's and yesterday I was having a discussion in some group that were talking about Suni Cheva Sopakache now, where they're saying with equal vision, you see the Brahman, elephant, a cow, and a dog eater on the same level. And then Prabhupada describes as a transcendentalist can have that sort of vision. But it doesn't mean that, you know, you see a chandala or a dog eater and he comes and messes up in your house and you say, oh, it's okay, you know, I see Krishna within you, so it's all right, you can do it again. It doesn't mean like that, you know. It means that even though you might have a transcendental sort of viewpoint, but you still have to act on a material level and then defend your property, or which Arjuna had to do as well in Bhagavad Gita. You know, he became a Krishna gave him a transcendental vision, but he still had to go and fight Duryodhana. He didn't let him up. But anyway, these are deep discussions. And so chapter 32, when Krishna reappears, the 8 principal gopis amongst the 3 billion gopis, because in the purport it mentions that there are actually billions of gopis actually. And they felt ecstasy. Well, the 8 are the principal ones, and amongst that there's obviously Radharani. But these gopis are actually the manifestation of the Krishna's internal potency as well, so for his own pleasure as well. And Krishna then explains why and how he reciprocated with them the way he did. And then Srila Prabhupada explains that the Lord may not immediately reciprocate fully. In fact, the Lord is truly reciprocating. After all, a sincere devotee always prays to the Lord, please help me to love you purely. Therefore, the Lord's so-called neglect is actually the fulfillment of the devotee's prayers. Lord Krishna intensifies our love for him by apparently separating himself from us. And the result is that we achieve what we really wanted and prayed for, intense love for the absolute truth, Krishna. Thus, Lord Krishna's apparent negligence is actually his thoughtful reciprocation and the fulfillment of our deepest and purest desire. So that is actually what we should be desiring to love Krishna more. But our desires are also for so many other things, which then Krishna also fulfills somehow or the other. And let us see through our how we get let down by friends, family, material, energy, and all that. So Krishna will do the rightful for intensifying our love for the absolute and for him. And that's what he did with his gopis, and see how in his gopis have to sing that Gopi-Gita. It's wonderful. And thank you, Karunavana. I'll listen to it again. I did listen to yesterday's as well. So Krishna also reveals how indebted he feels towards the gopis' servitude there too. So that's chapter 32. Amazing. Thank you, Haribol.
Thank you so much. Any questions, any comments? Otherwise, we can go to the Nishinga Kavach. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Chapter 31 and 32 ki jai, and Gopi-Gita ki